bring Canadian energy to Canadian refineries. We will have a national energy corridor, a pre-approved zone from Western to Eastern Canada, so that our companies can take our resources from the West to the East and off to the world to turn dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people in this country. Liquefied natural gas. We have 1,300 trillion cubic feet of natural gas here in Canada. Now, the Americans have built 8 liquefaction export terminals in the last 10 years. The Qataris have doubled their production. In Canada, we haven't completed a single one, even though there were 18 proposed the day Justin Trudeau took office. He says there's no business case. Mark Carney, being his economic advisor, agreed with him on that. Let me tell you about the business case. The price of natural gas, a million metric British thermal units in Europe is $15. In Canada, it's $4. So here's the business case. We're going to do this really slowly for our If you could take something worth $4 and sell it for $15 and do that billions and billions of times, that's a business case. Okay? So the only thing I asked the businesses, what do you have to do to get it done? How can we help? He said, one thing, get out of the way. We need to get out of the way and grab rapid permits so that we can build these big, beautiful plants. In Canada, we have a massive advantage. We have cold weather that makes it 25% cheaper to liquefy a gas compared to the US Gulf Coast. We have shorter shipping distances. To Asia, it's 11 days from Canada, it's 20 days from the US Gulf Coast. Shorter shipping distances from the East Coast to Europe. The Germans, the French, the Greeks, the Japanese have all asked for our natural gas. And when I'm Prime Minister, they'll be sending us billions of dollars because we will approve those plants. We will send them. We want the great blue-collar jobs, but we also want our brilliant professionals. We need more doctors and nurses in our hospital. You know, we have 32,000 immigrant nurses and 20,000 immigrant doctors banned from working because the bureaucracy won't let them prove their qualifications. When I got my eye surgery done, the technician there, he's also a surgeon in the UAE. He flies to the UAE to do 10 days of surgery, then comes back to his family here. We won't let him work as a technician.
On Epstein's Island.
Apparently Emirati eyeballs are different than Canadian eyeballs. In Toronto, they say that if you have a heart attack, don't call 911, call an Uber because the driver is probably a doctor. 84% of Filipino nurses in Canada can't work as nurses, even though they're perfectly qualified. What's the solution to this? The same thing that we did in the trades for the last 72 years. We created the Red Seal to test people up to a national standard, and we're letting them work everywhere in the country. Let's bring in a Blue Seal so that our immigrant doctors can take a test, prove their qualifications. We will fortify our economy. We will make ourselves strong and self-reliant so that we can stand up to Donald Trump from a position of force and strength. We need to be a nation that stands on its own 2 feet, that supplies its own resources, that upgrades and adds value to those resources, and sends them to markets at home and abroad without relying on one market. We will stand up to President Trump from a position of strength. When we're stronger abroad, we will be safer at home. We need to stop the crime. Is there any crime in Fredericton. After the lost liberal decade, crime is running out of control. Radical catch-and-release, hug-a-thug policies have turned the worst offenders onto the street. The good news is, we actually don't have a lot of criminals in Canada. The bad news is, they're very productive. There's a small number of criminals that do a phenomenal amount of crime. Why? Because we let them. They go back out on the streets within literally hours of their arrest. As our friend Rob Moore worked so hard to fight against crime, we give it up for Rob Moore. So, in Vancouver, they had to arrest the same 40 offenders 6,000 times. In Penticton, there's one guy who, when he's out of jail, he raises the crime rate for the entire city, all by himself. The police can actually look at the crime rate going up and down and tell when this fellow Levi has been loose. One guy. Well, the solution is pretty simple. We have to repeal the liberal laws that allow this to happen. C-75, which says that the judge must release the offender at the, quote, earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions. That is why the offender continues to get out. Then there's C5, which requires the judges grant house arrest, even to the most prolific offenders. So a career car thief can serve his sentence in the comfort of his living room, watching Netflix, or playing Grand Theft Auto. And then there's C-83, which allows Paul Bernardo out of a maximum security penitentiary. These are all liberal laws, and if liberals are elected to a fourth term, they will make it even worse. They will turn loose even more criminals into our streets, while law-abiding Canadians are mercilessly targeted. But the good news is it doesn't have to be this way. We will have change to put law-abiding Canadians first. We will repeal C-75 and bring in jail, not bail. We will repeal liberal law C-5 to end house arrest and put real offenders behind real prison bars. And we will repeal C-83 to require that Paul Bernardo and all other mass murderers go into maximum security penitentiaries where they will stay forever until they can run And then we will secure our borders. That are responsible for over 80% of the crime. 99% of shipping containers enter this country with no inspection. That's the source of the drugs, guns, and stolen cars. And then we have unguarded portions of our border that CBSA officers are not even allowed to patrol. Our common sense Canada First plan will secure our borders with 2,000 more frontline CBSA officers, paid for by having 2,000 fewer bureaucrats in back offices. We will have high-powered scanners that can peer right through the metal walls of the shipping containers to see what's inside them. Surveillance towers along our border to stop illegal crossings of land and prohibited people and prohibited substances. And as I said, we're going to have a dollar-for-dollar law to pay for things. So how are we going to pay for it? We are going to cancel the wasteful, multi-billion-dollar gun grab that targets Make no mistake, the Liberals have said it in their own words. They will ban your hunting rifle. Tell everyone at the hunting camp, if the Liberals get back in, they will ban every single hunting rifle in this country. They cannot stand the idea that someone would have the independence to go and harvest the protein of the land to bring home a deer or a moose to feed their own family. Because of course then you don't need the government. The last thing they want is for you to have that feeling of independence. They don't understand that in rural communities across this country, after 10 years of liberal food price inflation, there are many families that wouldn't get any protein at all if they weren't able to hunt for it. So here's the choice. Here's the choice. With conservatives, we will protect Canadians from criminals. With liberals, they'll protect turkeys from hunters.
Beer 25!
Maybe I should say that we'll protect Canadians from turkeys, but in reality, we know that it's not Grandpa Joe's hunting rifle causing the problem. It's the real criminals and gun smugglers. We will bring in life sentences for gun smugglers and other serious criminals. And then, what's that?
Put Carney in jail!
We don't need that. We just need to vote them out. Vote them out. That's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is vote them out of office and give Canadians back control of their lives. We're going to bring real change and put Canada first. And that includes standing up against the scourge of fentanyl and drug overdoses. My friends, this is possibly the biggest tragedy of the lost Liberal decade. 50,000 people have died in one decade in Canada from opioid overdoses. That is more than died fighting for us in World War II. Not a week goes by that I don't meet a family member who tells me, there we are right there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. We hear these, may she rest in peace. God bless you. Thank you. We hear these stories all the time. I got a letter from a father the other day, and he said, I held my wife's hand when she gave birth to our baby boy, and then 25 years later, I held her hand again when we opened the door and found a police officer in tears to tell us that he was lost to fentanyl. These are the stories we hear again and again and again. The drugs are everywhere on our streets. The dealers pay no price for manufacturing and trafficking it. We've lost so many people. The government's response is to make drugs even more available. Tax-funded opioids that get sold to children. Profits pay for deadlier...
Safe houses next to schools.
...times more powerful than heroin. There are no penalties for the serious traffickers who are often released on bail even after they are caught with massive sums. To show you how deadly this stuff is, 40 milligrams of fentanyl is enough to kill 20 people. If you are selling fentanyl en masse, you are doing the equivalent of firing bullets into a crowded stadium. You might not know who you're killing, but there's definitely someone who's going to die. And that is why my government will treat fentanyl mass traffickers and producers as the murderers that they are, with life. And then we will secure the borders to keep the illegal drugs out. We will stop funding opioids, and instead we will put the money into treatment and recovery services, bringing loved ones home drug-free. I think of the wonderful treatment centers like Harvest House here in Eastern Canada, here in the Atlantic, where they bring young men and women in off the street. They provide them with detox, counseling, group therapy, physical exercise. They help them get into a job and a home. They reunite them with their family, give them some faith again, teach them a little bit about how to get back on their feet so that they can start all over again. What I said to those young men when I visited them, I sat around the table And I said, I need you. I need a favor from you. I need you to get better so that you can go find the next person who's on a street corner and you can pick them up and you can bring them here and you can save their lives. Surviving that addiction is like a superpower. You will be able to say that you've been to the bottom of the valley and you know how to climb back to the top of the mountain. So my message to anyone who is out there today suffering from addiction, hang on, have hope, help is on the way. We're going to unite this country in its own defense. We're going to stand up for our seas, skies, and air. We're going to rebuild Canada's armed forces to protect. I need you to elect military veteran Brian McDonald right here in Toronto. Together, we are going to fill all the vacancies in our armed forces by ramping up recruitment faster than in any peacetime in our history. We are going to buy fighter jets, Poseidon aircraft that can look down and intercept the submarines that are swimming around from China and Russia in our Arctic waters. We are going to procure more and best equipment. We're going to ensure that our soldiers and veterans have the support they need. We'll buy 4 massive icebreakers to reclaim the icy Arctic waters. Arctic base in Canada since the Cold War, CFB Iqaluit. Are there any of the great men and women here in this room who serve at CFB Gagetown? Give them a round of applause. And we will reinstate a warrior culture, not a woke culture. More and more of our young people will be recruited to the cadets so that they can learn. We got a cadet over there. I love the cadets. Army, Navy, or Air? Air, you gonna be a pilot? No. The Army cadets are too far away. Someone move, Brian, can you move the Army cadets closer to your house? You can be a great cadet. Look at that bright young kid. The young people getting mentorship from our soldiers and Arctic Rangers. Will learn new skills of survivalism, discipline, punctuality, and all kinds of other things that will help them appreciate our country and contribute in the future. We need to bring our people together and unite our nation as one country, contributing to a common cause. We need to take back control of our immigration system after the lost Liberal decade. We had the best immigration system in the world before the Liberals, but then they went ahead with this radical century initiative that grew our population rate at 3 times the rate of our housing stock, leaving us with a housing shortage. When I am Prime Minister, we will reject the century initiative. We will cap immigration so that population never grows faster than the availability of homes, healthcare, and jobs. We will honor our history. We will honor our history. We will put up rather than knocking down our statues, including beautiful statues of John F. We will reinstate the famous 5, Terry Fox, our soldiers, and Callis